Now, recently, I have had eyes for one car and one car only. It is, of course, the Renault 5. I mean, it's simply irresistible. That isn't till I met this. The Alpine A290. I mean, look at it. I think it might have stolen my heart. I actually met the concept about a year ago in Paris, and it really was a bit of a heartbreaker then. But this is the moment. We're here in Mallorca. We are finally going to get to take this for a test drive. I cannot wait. But before we do, you know, do the thing. Subscribe to the channel. Thank you. This is no concept car. You'll be able to buy this car in the spring of 2025 with prices expected to start from around £33,500 for the 180 horsepower GT model, rising to £38,000 for this top-spec GTS model, which is powered by the 220 horsepower electric motor. Can we just take a moment to appreciate the aesthetics of this car? I mean, that shouts performance, right? And we haven't even driven it. It just really looks the part. This belongs in a rally on a racetrack. This is screaming out to be driven to the absolute limit. We have done a full walk around of this car already. Nick's done it, and I'm going to put the link here. So if you want to see that, do. But in the meantime, I've just got to pick out a few of my favourite features. One of which, of course, has to be mentioned, the X's. The X's on the lights. That is just a design feature that it means this car is instantly recognisable. It's also, well, first of all, the four lights at the front is obviously a nod to the original Alpine 110, which has that iconic four round lights at the front. And then the X's, and I just love how rally cars had this, is that back in the day, the mechanics, of course, would put a little bit of tape across the lenses, so should there be any issues, the glass wouldn't fall out and break on the floor into the track. Brilliant. So that's why we have these X's here. So a really lovely nod to that history and the heritage, but it is also such a modern hot hatch, isn't it? Now, a couple of things worth mentioning. This little bit of detailing is quite cool. I quite like it. However, in the Renault 5, not only does it light up, but it also tells you the state of charge of the battery. Genius. This does not do that. It's just a decorative feature. I don't dislike it, but it's a shame that it doesn't have a function like it does on the Renault 5. Let's have a little look around at the side. Oh, those wheels. The Snowflake 19-inch wheels. A thing of beauty, and it kind of reflects in the design at the front here. But the thing that I like the most about the side is obviously you've got these like enhanced sills at the bottom. Again, great for aerodynamics, makes it look more sporty. The only downside, I think, is if you have children, what are they going to do? They're going to open the door and they're going to go, oh, that's a lovely little ledge to put my foot on, and probably in some form of shape damage them. So that's just a little impractical, but never mind. Let's just forget about the kids for a while. It looks great. Now I want to show you this. Take a look inside the boot. It's full of stuff. My stuff, Manos's stuff, loads of stuff. Do you get what I'm saying here? This is a big boot for a small car. 326 litres worth of boot. Compare that to the Mini, 210. That's like 50% extra. I think this situation is a bit of a secret weapon because, well, for me, I find the boot size of a Mini really, really annoying because you basically can't fit anything in it. So that is a very nice little surprise hidden under there. Right, take a look around the interior. You are not going to be surprised to hear that it's really nice. It's a lovely place to be. It's not an interior, is it? It's a cockpit. I mean, everything has been designed with the driver in mind. Now, here's a challenge for you. There's something missing in the interior of this Alpine. What is it? It's cup holders. So basically, the design team said that they had the choice. It was either putting the gear selector, the wireless charging for your phone down here, and one of them wouldn't fit, and it was the cup holders that had to go. But I can get over it because what is really nice is this cockpit feel, and they've really kind of used the central area to kind of separate the driver from the passenger. In terms of storage space, it's very limited. So not only have you got no cup holders, you don't really have any space to put anything. You've got a lovely display up here, which again is angled towards the driver. You've got another one in front of you, 10.25 inches. And I cannot wait to share with you this. It has Alpine telemetrics, live data, coaching and challenges. We are going to be taking this car to a track shortly, and I'm going to be putting that to the test. Steering wheel, loads of gadgets going on here. So we've got the RCH button, which is where you can set your regenerative braking. You've got 3 different levels for that. Drive modes, you've got 4 different drive modes from, they call it save, which is obviously saving energy, normal, personal and sport. Personal, there's actually quite a few different ways of personalising it. But to be honest, I've just had it in sport the whole time, so it's been great. And then the magic red OV button. The overtake button. Brilliant. Absolutely love it. It gives you an extra burst of power for up to 10 seconds. And we will be testing that very shortly. Oh, quick one about the seats. They're not official bucket seats, but what they are is very comfortable. They've increased the size of the bolster, and yeah, it's nice. It's cozy. The seat kind of still hugs you a bit, but it's comfortable. Made from Napa leather, and they use a sustainable way to dye the leather using coffee beans. There you go. Let me show you the key. Interesting design, quite flat on one side. I feel like this was designed with a man in mind, so it's easy to put in your back pocket. What I find a little bit annoying is that there's no key ring. So how am I going to attach that to my house keys and my AirTag so I never lose it? I'm sure there's a way around it, but I just prefer a normal traditional key on a key ring. But anyway, there is a nice place to put it. Just there. Now, there is the other benefit, of course, having no cup holders. The gear selector is down here in the middle, which means it's not up here, which is one thing that I know Ginny really didn't like in the Renault 5. I found it quite annoying. And actually, the designers did say, you know, particularly when you are driving at pace and you're throwing the steering wheel around, it's much more intuitive to have your gear selector down here. So that all makes perfect sense. But we're not really here to talk about the exterior or the interior or any of that stuff, are we? Let's go driving. Come on. In terms of the competition, well, it stacks up against the Cupra Born, which starts at just above £34,000, and the Abarth 500e at a few £100s below. You've also got the Mini Cooper Electric, which is a bit more reasonable at £30,000, but you do get a bit more cart with the Alpine. It's a fraction wider and a fraction longer than the Mini at just under 4 metres long. Plus, just like the Born, you get to enjoy the practicalities of having 5 doors. These windy roads are the perfect place to test the agility of this car. And the thing you immediately notice is the steering. It's sharp. It gives you just the right amount of feedback as you wind around these roads. Quick reminder of performance figures. 0 to 100 kilometres an hour in 6.4 seconds, punchy, 220 horsepower. Now the weight's interesting because it's actually a bit lighter than the cars in its segment. This comes in at just under 1.5 tonnes, but a car typically in its segment weighs more like 1.6 tonnes, so it's 100 kilos lighter. Okay, so when it comes to power delivery, it's nice. It's smooth, but it's punchy when you need it. They've worked really hard on the suspension, actually. It has quite a nice balance. It keeps some of the rigidity, but it's not too firm. It doesn't have that go-karty feeling. It's not like a Mini. So actually, we've been on not the bumpiest, but bumpy-ish roads, and it's never felt unsettled. It's quite a comfortable drive. Now, one thing I really like are the brakes, would you believe? They're really nice and firm. You have to push down quite hard, but I like that. It slightly reminds me of driving a sports car or a race car. They're not overly sensitive. You know, sometimes you get a bit of sort of a jerky feeling. So that's quite nice. And actually that's also true with the throttle pedal. I think sometimes the throttle is just overly sensitive, particularly with an electric car. You know, we always get that 100% torque. You can zoom off from stand still, but you don't always want that. You don't always want your head being thrown to the back of your seat. So it's a really nice power delivery. Now, the tyres are actually tailor-made, 19-inch Michelin tyres to basically give you loads of grip, keep you stuck on the road, but they're also energy efficient. So smart tyres on this car. Right, let's have a play with the drive modes. I'm currently in Save because I'm very eco-conscious, which is obviously the most energy efficient. Pop it into normal. It doesn't make a huge difference, but when we pop it into sport, suddenly you get increased power, the ambient lighting changes all red, you get a slightly different sound, you're suddenly engaged to drive, you're going into battle. I like it. Now, the other thing we can play around with is up here on the steering wheel is we've got the regenerative braking. So I'm currently just on you can have it switched off completely. I've got it on the first setting at the moment, but I'm going to whack it up to the third setting, and instantly you can pretty much go down to one pedal driving. Almost. We're creeping a little bit, so not completely. But I believe there is a software update coming which will allow one pedal driving. Now, I cannot believe I've gone this whole time without talking about the OV, the overtake button. It's just crying out to be pressed. It was, of course, the first thing I pressed when I got in this car earlier, but the cameras weren't rolling. So let me show you. We are currently just meandering along. Imagine there was a car I wanted to pass. Oh, did you see that? My head went back a little bit. The graphics change, they come up, flash at you, you get extra power. Definitely enough to pass someone, to make a little overtake. It's great. It's kind of pointless, but it's also really fun. I like it. Now, everything's been sounding quite positive so far, hasn't it? A small little bugbear, and actually Ginny noticed it in the Renault 5 as well, and it's that there's a little bit of wind noise coming in. When you're at slower speeds, anything under 100 kilometers an hour, under 60, not an issue. But as soon as you're doing kind of motorway speeds, you do notice it. It's not disastrous, but when you're paying nearly 40 grand for a car, do you expect to hear wind noise at high speeds? Not really, no. It has a 52 kilowatt hour battery and an official WLTP range of up to 236 miles. When it comes to fast charging, 15 to 80% in just 30 minutes. It also has a heat pump and bi-directional vehicle-to-load and vehicle-to-grid functions as standard. It comes in 4 different body colours: deep black, Naval white, matte tornado grey and Alpine Vision blue. Now, the Brembo 4-piston monoblock brake calibers have been taken from the Alpine A110, and they're offered in a rather nice racing red or Alpine blue. After a great day of driving on these beautiful Mallorcan roads, Alpine had a little surprise for us. They took us to the Mallorca racetrack, so it was time to push the limits of the A290 and take on a driving challenge of my own. So I've chosen one that is going to test my agility. I'm going to test my lateral acceleration and see if I can hit 1G with my lateral acceleration. Woohoo! I just pulled 1.1 Gs. Yeah. Does that make me a racing driver? I mean, it is so smooth on the brakes. Like, heavy braking handles so well. Oh, that is so good. That handles so well. That's amazing. It's been a glorious day of driving and getting to know this Alpine A290. Now it's time for some final thoughts. What a view. Whichever way you look, gorgeous view, right? Okay, time for a bit of a conclusion. This isn't really particularly a hard one. I think you know what I'm going to say. I love this car. It's amazing. It's wonderful. I think Alpine have really delivered on what they set out to do. This is a car that not only has bucket loads of personality, it's got history and heritage, but it absolutely delivers when it comes to that drivability. It is versatile, it's adaptable. If you want comfortable, easy daily driving, it's got it. But if you want a slightly more spirited drive, you can push it to the absolute maximum. It has been such a joy to drive on the windy roads of Mallorca, but also taking it to a test track and really pushing it to the limits. What's going to be really interesting is next year, because next year the competition comes out. The electric Mini John Cooper Works. Now, I suspect that's going to still feel a bit more go-karty, whereas this does have that element of refinement. So there will be a point of differentiation, I'm sure, but very evenly matched when it comes to performance and stats and figures. Now, if we compare it to the Cupra Born, quite evenly matched. However, I think this just has the edge, both in terms of the way it drives and performs, and also just the way it looks. It's just got bucket loads of personality. I think it's pretty obvious. It's a massive thumbs up from me for the Alpine 290.